Let's add if statements to our coding arsenal. They're easy to learn and open up a world of possibilities. Hello everyone, it's Luis from LogoLife bringing you a series dedicated to Roblox game development. In this video, we'll be taking a look at conditional statements, simple logic, and arithmetic operations. Then we'll build a simple passageway that opens when the given conditions are met. Let's get started. Alright, last time we learned about variables. Today we're going to perform some arithmetic operations on them. We'll do some if statements, and then we'll create a really cool passageway that unlocks when you get the secret combination. So let's get started by going to server script service, and then we'll add a script. We'll set A equals to 4, B equals 2, and I'll show you some cool operations that you can do with them. We could do A plus B. You can do addition this way. You can also do subtraction. So A minus B. You can do multiplication. A times B. That's the asterisk symbol. You can do division. A divided by B with the forward slash. And I also want to show you the modulus operator, which gives you the remainder when A is divided by B. Now if we hit play, we'll get to see the results here. And if you get confused, you can just click on the output and it'll just tell you what print statement it came from. So in this case, A divided by B, that is equal to 2, and the remainder is 0. So there we see it. Prints out 0. So that's correct. We can go a step further now and do some if statements to check if a number is divisible by another. So an if statement, also known as a conditional statement, only runs when its condition is true. So we can declare one as follows: do if, and then the condition. So if true, then and enter, and then we got ourselves a code block. This only runs when the condition is true. So I'd like to make an if statement that runs when the remainder of A divided by B is equal to 0. Now, because we're just checking if the left side is equal to the right side, we use double equals instead of a single equals. Okay, that's a very big distinction. At the top, we were assigning values to variables. That's why we used one equals sign. Inside the if statement, when we're just comparing left side to right side, we use two equal signs. So indeed, if the remainder is 0, then we'd like to say that the number A, we got to do a toString because A is a number. First, we got to change it into string form. I mean, double dot to concatenate, that is to join strings together. Divisible by, and then dot dot, and then toString B. This would actually print when indeed A is divisible by B, and we can see it. 4 is divisible by 2, we know that. So that seems to work. But what if we changed A to be a number that is not divisible by 2? We can also get that print if we do else. But I want to go a step further and more specifically do the else if. Now go ahead and cover the point here that the remainder is not going to be equal to 0. So to do the not equal, you do this squiggly line here and the equal sign. Okay, you can find that one to the left of the number 1 key if you are using NA keyboard. And then we just simply copy this right here. Here we go. And it's not divisible. And now if we change A to 5, for example, we'll get the other option. 5 is not divisible by 2. There you go. Now, we could do the else. In this case, this would never trigger because a number is either divisible by 2 or not. there is no like third case. But if there was, that would be caught with the else statement. Basically, if something is not true, then anything else that makes it false, it would just run underneath here. Okay, wanted to mention that. Now I'd like to go a step further and use the idea of if statements to make a passageway. So it's like a puzzle game. We got to figure out the combination that opens the doorway. I'm going to go ahead and delete the script, and then we're going to get started with the modeling for our passageway. So here we go. I'm going to move this up a little bit here. First, I'm going to make like the wall. So I'm going to make it rock material, dark. Make sure to anchor pieces of the world that are not supposed to move. I'm going to make a duplicate. And now I'm going to make the part for the passageway. I'm planning to kind of dig into the wall, so I'm going to make a negative part. And then I just got to make sure it extends, so it really cuts the part out that I want. So here we go, and I'll select both parts and union them, and then it digs it out. Great. Now I want to make the part that is going to be the kind of the passageway. It's going to be like a force field. So, a matter of scaling and positioning that. I'm going to make sure it's anchored. And this is what's going to prevent the player from being able to go through unless they get the secret password. Here we go. I'll set it equal to red for the colors. All right, we got ourselves our passageway. I'm gonna name this the force field so we know for later. All right, now we're gonna do the buttons to open up the passageway. So I'm just adding parts, and then I'm going to duplicate it, move it, duplicate it, and move it. Select all three pieces. And then I want to make it neon color in red. It really stands out. Now I'll just go through and name each of the pieces. All right, so now I'll go in button 1, add a script. And we're going to go based on... Basically, we want to trigger the button whenever it is touched. I'm going to start by creating a variable to refer to that part. So button 1 is equal to script.parent. This means we are in the script. The script is inside of the part. We're going to go one level higher, and that will refer to the actual part here in the world. We're just making a variable to refer to that part. And now we're going to find the event that triggers whenever the part is touched. That comes from the fact that the part is a member of the parts class, and we can actually go to the object viewer, go to part, and we can find the different methods and properties and events that are associated with part objects. We can see there's a touched event, and it gives us the instance of the other part that touched. So this is very important. We're going to use that. Here we go. Do button 1, touch, and then colon. We're going to connect an anonymous function. It means we don't give it a name. And then we'll pass it the other part. Here we go. Now, first thing we're going to want to do is something called debouncing. Okay. Anytime this button is touched, it's going to trigger. And if you don't do this debouncing step, you're going to be performing too many executions. And it's going to be hard to keep track of it to get it to do what you really want. So we're going to make a variable. We'll call it local is touched. We'll set that equal to false. And then whenever we start going into the touched event, we just go ahead and we just check to make sure that part is not touched. So we could do if is touched not equals true. We could do that. We could do if it's equals false. We could do if not is touched. Those are all equivalent. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do if not is touched, just because I think it looks a little bit cleaner. And then we got ourselves kind of the structure here that we're gonna then set is touched equal to true, and then we'll follow it up with the rest of the code that we're gonna do. Now what we need is to check whether the other part that touched it is a humanoid or not. I mean, it's if it's a player that touched it or not, or just another part of the world. We'll go ahead and declare a variable, local humanoid, and then set that equal to the other part. That could be the limb, like the legs. And then the parent of the limbs, that would be the humanoid itself. So we're just gonna check if indeed if it is a humanoid. And if it is, then humanoid will be a humanoid object. And if not, then it'll be nil. And basically it's the equivalent of false. So now we're gonna go ahead and check if humanoid. So if humanoid exists, then we'll follow it up. Now, one thing I want to do with these buttons is actually add some Boolean values so the server knows when they've been touched or not. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to replicated storage, and I'm gonna add some Boolean values there. I'll add one here and then call it button 1, and then we duplicate it and just change the name here. 2, and then button 3. This is just storing Boolean values, meaning true or false. So I want to check. So if it is a humanoid that touched it, and then just making sure that the value that we just created, that Boolean value, it's false. By default, it is false. So I'm just gonna do the same thing I did and just check if it is false by putting the not. And then I'm gonna refer to that value that we created. So we go to game dot replicated storage dot button 1 dot value. Then I have to remove the then here. There we go. And then I have to put the and. There we go. So we're checking. When you want to put multiple conditions to check, don't forget to put the and. Okay, so now what we would do is change the color of the button. Set it equal to lime green. And we're gonna set the Boolean value to true. There we go. I can actually copy this. Set that Boolean value to true. And now we want to cover it. If it's already been touched and the Boolean value is already true, then we can go the other way and set it to false. I'm going to do else if. Now I'll copy this. By removing the not, we're just checking if that value is true. So if it is true, then we want to change. This part is very similar. I'll change it. Instead of lime green, we return it to really red and set the value to false. We have to, here we have to put a wait in there, because if we don't wait, again, it's gonna be overwhelmed. Too many things happening too fast. So you give it a wait. 2 seconds should be plenty. And then we set is touched equal to false so that this can actually run again. Another thing that I want to do is put another if statement, and once all the Boolean values here, once they're all set to true, we want that passageway to open. So that's what we're gonna do now. So if the first value is true and the second value is true and the third value is true for all the 3 buttons, then we want to open the force field. So we're gonna go to game dot workspace dot force field. Now this is a very interesting way of referring to a part. It's not like we've done in the past with script.parent. You could have also done button 1 is equal to game.workspace.button1. This is just basically following the file structure. So one way is that we're going inside of folders, and this first way is just that we're going out. So that's why I said this is like going one step out. That's the difference there. We're gonna go ahead and set the transparency equal to 1 to make it fully transparent, and then we'll set it so that the collision is off so we can actually walk through, and collide equals to false. And then we should be good here. Now that's only covering the first button. We're gonna go ahead and just copy and paste it into the other buttons. So we have the script going, multiple buttons, and we just have to make a slight modification. We go to replace. Wherever we see button 1, we can replace with button 2. Yeah, okay, let's see here. Button 2. Go. And then we can do the same thing with button 3. Wherever we see button 1, with button 3. Okay. Now we can play, and we should see this force field gonna open up when the 3 buttons are pressed. Hey, here we go. Let's get it. Awesome. Now one thing I want to do now, just double check that I did anchor all the parts. All the buttons are not anchored, so yeah, don't forget to do that. You want to make sure you anchor parts of the world. Yeah, that was one thing. Let's say we want to set a special combination here, so that it only works when button 1 and button 3 are pressed, but not button 2. So now what we could do is, in this if statement, we can check, you just add a not to make sure that button 2 is not true. Do that in all of them. Not. And then we can test it again, and now it's kind of like a secret combination. If we were to touch this button 2 at the beginning, by the way, if we go to replicated storage, we can see how the values are changing when we actually interact. So if I touch this again, it goes to false right here in the value. But we know the answer here is button 1, button 3. So if we were to go ahead and hit all buttons here, our force field is not cooperating with us because we didn't do the right combination. But now we turn off in the middle one. Here we go. That's a win right there. So I wanted to show you an application of if statements in games so you can make your own secret passageways. I hope you really enjoyed that. I think it was super fun to make it, and we look forward to doing some more cool stuff in the future. Keep an eye out for upcoming workshops on our website and join the Discord to get involved in our community. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to be notified when we post new videos. We'll see you on the next one. Oh, yeah!